All right, here we go. Welcome to the Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast. As you know, this show's just for woodshop owners, cabinet makers, architectural mill workers. We have a mill worker as a guest today, and closet companies. Those of you who are interested in the business of the woodshop business. Now, if you're looking for straightforward, no BS answers, this is the place because this show is all about getting to the next level. I want you to work smarter, not harder. So on this show, you hear the real tools, tips, and tricks that a business coach like myself and my team use. Other millionaire contractors are already doing the things you hear about in the show. Your job is to go put them in place your way for your company in the way that makes you feel comfortable in what you want to achieve, right? I want to get you from chaos in your business to clarity. If you're stressed, if you're frustrated, if you're overworked and underpaid, come on. That's exactly what the show's about. I'm trying to show you how to build the steps to get to the next level. That's what the show's about. So today's guest is actually a really good way to give you an insight. Today's guest is Jenny Gayfer. Now, she's going to be talking about, we've given it this title, Millwork Contract Success, the magic of early and often communication. But I want you to think about this. Now, Jenny is the owner of Top 40 Woodworks in Kamloops, BC. Her company's just around 20 million in sales, right? It's a big company. Before she bought the company, she was an architectural sales rep for McKillican. She was also a very high-level soccer player, right? So she's got that internal drive like a lot of you do. Let me just look at my notes. 65,000 square foot shop, 85 staff. It's incredible. So when you're sitting there and you say, well, we've got 3 staff, or we've got 13 staff, or we have 30 staff, like what's it going to look like when we grow? Jenny's going to give you some perspective on what it looks like to be at the next level. And the reason for that is I want your growth to be magnetic. And what that means is we don't want to be pushed in our growth. We want to be pulled in our growth. Just like those of you who are big fans of lean manufacturing, you want pull through the factory, not push through the factory. Only those of you that understand lean or listen to Brad or Paul Akers will understand what I mean there. Now, I met Jenny at an energy training conference. She was a panelist. She was speaking about legal and contractual issues. And I was there. I was a presenter on business operations. It was about 2 minutes into her panel presentation that I was on LinkedIn on my phone, inviting her to be a guest on this show. She really knows her stuff. I love her style and her approach. Now, they concentrate on commercial work like hospitals and schools, and very, very big on culture. Isn't that funny? Because I get the feeling when I talk about culture, a lot of you roll your eyes and think, uh-oh, Rubino's been eating those funny mushrooms again. No. Culture is the glue that holds your company together when you're not there. So those of you who have time or time management issues or team issues or profitability issues, culture, believe it or not, is at the root cause. Culture. Do you have a culture in your business? Do you tend to that culture like a garden? It really is something you have to pay specific proactive attention to. And Jenny's proactive about that communication, and that communication then extends over to how they go after the contracts that they win and how they develop relationships with the people they work with and how those contracts get initiated and managed. If you want to learn more about how we do what we do when we talk about all these important things with business owners, shoot me a text. Just say, Dom, let's talk. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. Just say, Dom, let's talk. And then you know what we'll do. We'll talk. And as you know, a lot of this is about mindset. You're going to hear about Jenny's mindset. But before we do, I just said mindset. And that means it's time for our dad jokes. Now, why dad jokes? Come on. Why bad jokes? Please do them better. But why dad jokes poorly delivered with poor timing? That's how I roll. That is all I know how to do. And of course, I want to get you laughing and I want to get your mind open to hearing what our guest, Jenny, has to say. So today we're going to be doing soccer jokes because, as I said, Jenny was a very high-level soccer player. I thought, hey, we haven't done soccer jokes as a theme. So here's what I did is I used AI. Yeah, I admit it. I used AI. I went to ChatGPT. I actually bought ChatGPT 4 to help me with things, but I asked it to write me a poem about soccer and also about the dives that soccer players make. And then I said to ChatGPT, because I looked at the poem it put out, I said, come on, write it as if you're Dr. Seuss. And so here we go. I'm going to write it as if it was Dr. Seuss. You ready? On a field so green where heroes strive, there's a dance we call the dive. With anguished yelps and cries for aid, they fall as if their legs have prayed. The ball rolls on with might and grace in this epic, frantic race. But then a breeze, so light and thin, down they go with a spin. With every touch, they hit the ground, rolling, writhing all around. Their faces twist in sheer dismay, as if struck in a fierce fray. The crowd gasps, their breaths they hold, suspense and drama unfold. But in moments they arise anew. The pain was fleeting, swift and few. Back to the game, they sprint and drive, revived from their dramatic dive. Oh, soccer field where legends play, and actors' skills come out to sway. In this ballet of kicks and schemes, players chase their golden dreams. That's if Dr. Seuss was to write a poem about soccer, that would be it. I bet whoever invented soccer got a real kick out of it. You realize the jokes have started then. Hey, what did the bad soccer announcer get for Christmas? Coal. You can use that one at Christmas time. You know why Cinderella could never play soccer? She always ran away from the ball. All right, let's wrap it up here. Do you know why grasshoppers don't watch soccer? It's because they prefer to watch cricket instead. Okay, Jenny, I hope you appreciated those jokes. Hey, folks, listen, we're going to get to the interview with Jenny right now. Stay till the end of the show for a very specific training segment where I simplify and solve a common business problem. Remember, at any time, you can always just shoot me a text at 315-903-7853 and just say, Dom, let's talk. Then you know what we'll do? We'll talk. Jenny Gayfer, how are you?
Really good, Dom. Thanks for having me today.
I'm excited to have you.
I'm shocked and impressed that you even want me.
Well, you know what? I was in the crowd. I was in the audience, and you were on a panel, and I thought, oh, those are some good answers. I should have you on the podcast so that everybody could hear your answers.
Well, I'm honored and always happy to discuss industry. It's fascinating, exciting industry.
Yeah, so many moving parts, right?
Totally, absolutely.
So other people don't know you, and they probably weren't in the audience with us at the big event. So let me ask you this very abrupt and possibly rude sounding question. You ready for it?
Yeah, hit me.
Jenny Gayfer, who the heck are you? And how is it that you come to be speaking to all these cabinet makers and architecture mill workers all over the world?
I am a business owner from Little Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada.
Yeah.
We own a millwork shop and we have about 80-ish employees and 65,000 square feet facility and probably about 17 million this year. We've got lots of growth plans, but baby steps. And we focus on commercial millwork, which includes institutional, which would be hospitals, schools, retail, multi-residential projects. There's a very big push right now in Canada for housing. And that plays right into our game, which is lovely. And then we do a kind of a side of residential kitchens, but we don't sell directly to the public. We go through builders and developers.
Okay, right. Smart.
Yes, it's interesting because our production floor has, I call it cylinders. We've got our machining bay, which cuts and drills and tapes. And then we've got our assembly, which, think IKEA. It's a flat pack comes, our assembly team puts it together and it can go right out the door. But then we have these other cylinders that always have to be working. if we're going to hit our financial goals, and that's our custom department, our paint
Of course.
department, and our
Yeah.
countertop department. And interestingly, for a while there, we thought we could go without residential. But it actually really fills in those
I was going
three.
to say it fits the
It
nooks and
does.
crannies and
Yeah, it
yeah,
dovetails. And
nicely
so
done.
we're careful not to take on too much because we want to keep those three departments being able to pivot to any kind of commercial project we have. But yeah, it's that product mix of every project and making sure that we have a balance of what goes through our production floor.
Well, and that brings up the question of scheduling.
True.
The ever-present scheduling question that just,
Absolutely.
I want to remind everybody listening, if you're in your first year and you're doing 250,000, if you're in your 10th year and you're doing 2.5 million, or if you're in your 20th year and you're doing 2.5 million, which could also happen, scheduling is an issue in our industry.
Without
And
doubt.
and
Balance.
this is where, yeah, this is where you really, Sean, I was listening to you and I was taking a lot of notes, because today, why don't I tell you the title, or the title? I'll tell everybody
Okay.
the title: Millwork Contract Success: The Magic of Early and Often Communications.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And originally I wanted you to talk about legal, which is so
True.
exciting.
And I am not a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel comfortable speaking to that, but what how to avoid the
Lawyers.
legal world is, really what we spoke about, which is having that early conversation and setting what the expectations are on both the client as well as the mill workshop. And if we can get that on the table early and plan and address any potential issues, that's where we can avoid the legal.
Now, look, we should talk a little bit about how you came to be in the industry, because this wasn't a family business. When you
No,
didn't just grow up and one day it was
no.
your company. How did you come to own what did you say, 85,000 or 65,000 square feet?
65.
65,000 square foot. How did you come to be running a 65,000 square foot millwork shop in Kamloops, British Columbia?
Circuitous route.
Circuitous.
I
Okay.
actually entered this, I would say probably on a whole, most mill workshop owners come off the floor and off the tools.
Exactly.
That's kind of the old school path to a business owner, but I actually came through sales, actually, and as a vendor rep. I worked for a good part of my career for McKillican,
Okay.
and they were the Wilson Art supplier.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool. It was a interesting perspective to be able to know the inner workings, or from afar, but of hundreds of different kitchen
Shops.
manufacturers and millwork shops, to small guys to big guys, and deal with their purchasers, deal with their scheduling, and it was super insightful.
Yeah.
And then it led to me coming to work with Top 40. They were one of my favorite accounts. I really adored the former owner, Jack Mendes. And it just came for time for a change for me. And Jack and I had always talked about possibly working together. And so he hired me on to go out and find national clients that we could be their millwork solution.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Lots of corporate companies will just have one or two millwork providers to keep
That's
their
right.
branding
Consistent.
uniform, and so that went on for 12 years, 10 years, 12 years.
Oh.
And then Jack was approaching that time of retirement. And about that time, we had been reading, my husband and I, a book called Buy Them Build, and talking about all the baby boomers exiting the industry.
Right.
And lots of really healthy businesses out there in the market with existing clienteles, really good revenue, good margins, and they want to step away. And great time to step into those businesses as opposed to a startup, where, you have no clients, you
You've got
have
no
no money,
clients, no equipment, no
and
cash flow.
you have a ton of overhead.
Yeah.
It was a little bigger venture than what we initially had sought.
Right.
But we worked with the banks, and we figured we could swing it, and Jack was super helpful, and we stepped into it. It's 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. And it's been hair straight back.
Hair straight back.
Totally.
Naruto running just.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I observed, because there was a scavenger hunt at this event. You and I met at the Energy event. For people familiar with the Energy software, it's an ERP for large commercial millwork or residential millwork. And like I said, you were the panel talking about some legal things, but your team gets along so well.
I love our people. Like you are what your culture is.
Oh my gosh, that was
I
my
I
last
just
coaching meeting just before you was all about
was it.
culture.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I grew up playing competitive soccer. It doesn't matter if you have got every Messi on the team.
Mm,
It doesn't matter the skill and the talent level of your individual staffs. If they cannot work together,
yeah.
um, you need to bring that alignment, that teamwork together. And that's what creates that magic.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone makes that extra effort. That's when they take bullets for each other. That's honestly one of my biggest problems with the staff, especially the project managers, is, hey, I'll take that. No, you are overwhelmed right now. You cannot take, no,
Oh,
no, no.
they're trying to take on too
Yeah,
much.
right.
Yeah.
Instead of shirking duty,
They're trying to
they're
take
trying
more.
to jump in there and take it. And honest to God, to me, that has been our biggest accomplishment at Top 40, is really shifting the morale and shifting the culture,
Hmm.
and just being
Make,
very, what's the word? Procuring the right
procuring.
people.
Okay, so you're not hiring by accident. So this isn't the subject of today, but there's value in this. So let's spend a few minutes on this. Can you really summarize what are a couple of the things that you did to influence the culture to where it is today? Because you came in as the new owner, you'd worked there for
Yes.
12 years or so, and then I
Yeah,
assume some transition period. So, well, you've been there for a couple of years, but you changed the culture because now you're the leader.
true.
What were the things that you did to take an already good culture and make it gooder?
Gooder. Let me
Gooder,
think here. I think that first and foremost is open, honest communication.
right back to our topic early and often
Again,
communication.
and honestly, rinse and repeat, whether we're talking about company culture, we're talking about client response or relationships, vendor
Mhm.
relationships. I think it all starts with open, transparent communication. Just be honest.
Yeah,
And so that was something that we also did, is we were very uh, visibility with our financials. And that was something that we opened right up to our
really.
employees. Yeah,
Yeah, visible.
yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
so
we're asking them to work hard, and we want to be transparent about when we get to a certain point, we would like to offer profit sharing. And in order to
oh,
do that, you have to be able to show what your overhead is and where our break even point is, and
mm,
when the profit sharing starts. And so every month onto that communication, we every month we have a town hall, which is the entire staff. It's not just the front.
right. Good.
It's the
Yeah.
production floor, and it's kind of grown. We
Well, you've
bought,
got 85 staff. That's
yeah,
big.
well, now we've got this big speaker system, and I feel like Madonna up there with a headset,
Oh,
and
really? Walking
we've
around.
got a smart board,
Do you
and
have the little wire mic,
yeah, yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. And then,
Excellent.
what's really cool too is we have really opened our minds to remote staff. So we've actually,
Mm,
I'm trying to think, we've got people in Calgary, Vancouver,
hmm.
uh, Revelstoke.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got lots of remote staff, so they're actually talking heads on our smart board.
Yeah.
Well, we have this town hall just to bring that alignment, and usually what we do is it's 15 minutes every month, and then every quarter we make it a barbecue or a luncheon and make it a bit longer, but we look ahead. So, well, first we look at where we're at right now. Hey, how did we do this past month?
Okay.
Where are we year to date for this quarter? Because we break our profit sharing down by quarter. So we, take stock of where we've been.
Yeah.
We look ahead at the sales forecast, and that's the beauty again for energy, the software. It is brilliant. It is so freaking magnificent.
Yeah, it's good.
Right down to actually our staff can see where we are margin wise. And they can see when we dip and
So
why
you really share your open book right down to gross or net?
It's gross, and I mean, I guess there's the nitty gritty that is not out there, but it's a generalization for the most
Sure. They have to understand. I guess what I'm
Yes.
hearing from you is that you're communicating with your people and say, look, this is the business. Here it is on paper. We're not just pushing wood
Nothing
through
to
the
hide.
machine. We're not just edge banding. We're actually
Totally.
running a business, and here's how it looks. People that come to your company that don't understand business, what's their take on this whole, like, oh my God, there's Jenny on stage. She's walking around, she's showing us financials. What's their, you're
We're not on
laughing.
stage every day.
Well, you're at front. No, but once a month. Yeah.
It's I can't really guess what they think, but yeah, again, it's just back to that open, honest communication. Staff, clients, if we're in this together, we need to see what's at stake, and then we also need to see, hey, if we get to this mark, this is when it actually means money in our pockets, because we're in this for profit, right? And
I'm so glad you said that.
is what
Yeah, and
is
you didn't whisper it when you said it. Hopefully everybody picked that up. We're in
yes,
this for a
look at
profit.
profit is what allows us to pay our staff better. It gives them a better standard of living. It helps them pay for their soccer, for their
Right.
kids, go on their vacations. This is bigger than just showing up. It actually, if we do this right, we do this together. We spend so much of our life at work. We have a choice if we're just gonna show up and be miserable, or if we want to work together and do better. And yeah.
Yeah. I'm listening to some of the people who are currently listening to this episode, and they're saying, but Jenny, meetings are such a waste of time. I mean, you want to
Absolutely.
shut down production even once a month for 15 minutes or half an hour and have all these meetings where you're talking and sharing numbers. Like, what are you talking about? And I do want to remind people, for anybody who has resistance to that, that a couple of the statistics in front of us is this comes from an owner of a 65,000 square foot shop. So maybe hang on and listen to how Jenny answers this. Meetings are a waste of time, Jenny. Go ahead.
Absolutely. That's
Absolutely what? Sorry?
that return on investment
Yeah.
is, sorry, Visa, but it's priceless. So when we bought the company, first thing I did is actually individually interviewed every staff member. And I wanted to know what their thoughts are on how to make the organization better. I want to know what their superpower was. I want to know what they did when they grew up. I wanted to know their origin story. How did they come to be here? Where do
Wow.
they want to go? And the overwhelming response I heard was, I don't want to be a cog in a wheel and not know why I'm doing this. I want to see pictures of these projects that we're working so hard on. So
Right.
that's something we do at the town hall. We, again, I said we look behind, look ahead, and we celebrate, right? We,
So this is the
any announcement.
library that we just made, and somebody can say, "Oh my God, I made that reception," or "I just did the return on that." And yeah,
Gratification, like, hey, we, as often happens in this industry, the job from hell will often get you on a
the
magazine,
awards. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the one that you lost money on, Mark Sanderson, the founder of Energy, he said, if you want to be on a cover of a magazine, you may as well just write a check. because that's often how these projects go.
Yeah.
We had this project from hell, and it went through our shop in October, and it was grueling. It was grueling. It was redundant. It was, and
Why redundant? Just repeat
it
cubicles or
was
something, or
a black wave on a 2 or 3 story wall with little slats that are both dimension, like they came out plus they waved, like,
oh, okay, sure.
and
Oh my gosh.
anyway,
An
it's almost
engineer's dream.
we asked a lot from our staff. Like it was horrible. It was horrible work, and it was overwhelming. It was overtime. It was miserable. But for them to see the magazine that it was featured in and see
Right.
the pictures, it made it worth it. And we don't want to go there again. Let me make that clear.
Yeah, no.
Don't go
But
for the magazine covers. We didn't do that on purpose, but it helped take the sting out of the
got
project.
it. Yeah. Let's go to the project. Not that project particularly, but let's get back to our topic here, which is millwork contract success.
Right.
Because a lot of now we're going to talk probably a little bit more about the commercial side where we get given a contract. You know, people that are in the residential side of cabinetry, they create the contract and they give it to the homeowner or maybe even the builder.
Right.
And then there's that trend, you know, some builders push you a contract, but commercial definitely pushes you a contract. How do you find yourself dealing with those differently than your competitors?
You know, I want to back up the bus on your statement, which is we're given a contract.
Okay, good. I like it.
I would say that you need to enter the game far earlier than that.
Okay.
You know, I think the big thing is be intentional about who you choose to work with. What type of work,
What?
you know, is profitable and flows through the floor well, is easy on the staff, and how are you going to approach that project to be successful? And so back to, you know, your question is you're handed a contract. Excuse me. I would suggest that we as a company, I can only speak for us, but it's first to be intentional about the clients that we choose to work with. You know, there's a bidding system out there in the world.
Right.
And it can be pretty brutal. And
it is brutal.
It's not the only way to earn contracts. And I put that word earn.
Yeah.
Because there's developers slash builders slash companies that are not using the bidding system. They'll have preferred vendors.
Yeah.
And it's not low bid necessarily that they are looking for. Obviously, they have to be accountable fiscally, but they recognize that the lowest bid isn't always the most profitable for a successful project.
I think a lot of people get stuck in that.
Yeah.
I got to come in low to win this job. And I'll put this out as well. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to push back. I think this is probably how you approach these contracts. But one of the things that I encounter comes from one of your earlier statements. A lot of people get into millwork or cabinetry because they were on the tools and suddenly they found themselves the owner of a company. But at no point did they ever say, I'm a marketer. I'm going to go and see. So for those of you who aren't watching this on YouTube, Jenny just did the Italian, she just did the Italian thing with her hands where she held them both up.
Amen.
Oh, the amen. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. But we're typically not marketers. I'm very comfortable with marketing. You're comfortable with marketing. You came from sales. I came from sales and operations. And so for me, marketing, just go talk to people, talk to the right people, ask a lot of questions, and then say, hey, let's do business together. It's not hard, except that in your stomach, it's hard. There's 1,000 other things I'd rather do than go stop by a builder or talk to a franchise company about being their preferred vendor for their eyeglass stores.
Here it is. You know that that saying, walk in someone else's shoes, right? So coming from a business development background, without doubt, the most important thing to be successful, in my experience, is know thy client. Only then can you understand their challenges and what they're up against.
Right.
And then you can approach it with a fresh set of eyes. And it's when you look at it from your client's perspective, how can you bring value to their project?
Right.
Right. And honestly, there's so many things that we can do in terms of not being low bid, about being prepared early. Just that communication, taking the stress out of the shop drying process. Ask them what are the challenges you have with subtrades, specifically millwork. Let's discuss some solutions about how we can approach this, and what are your expectations? Like that's a big question. That if we have all of this early, I don't mean after the bid has been awarded, even before that, do your research, pick winners.
Yeah.
Winners are different.
They are.
I know it's a funny way to look at it, but I look at metro area top taxpayers. Who are the top taxpayers that are developers who would actually have a use for a millwork shop?
And why do you look at that number? Why do you look at metro area top taxpayers?
Because then I know that they have money.
Mm-hmm.
They typically will own the projects. They're developers. They own the project. That's the big one. We're not.
You've got the final decision maker.
Absolutely.
And isn't it funny that that's one of the keys to sales? And so for those of you listening, this is sales from Jenny and Dom, who've come through the sales angle, is you can't do a deal unless you've got the decision maker at the table. Well, I mean, you can. It's just going to take you forever and you're never going to get the right answer. But when you've got the decision maker there, things go so much faster.
And Dom, something to add to that is you wipe out agendas, meaning if you're not talking to that decision maker, the person that you're talking to right now might be looking for the easy button, and what you're presenting might make their job harder because they're used to the low bid system, and that's the easy button for that guy. And he's going to keep hitting that easy button because he doesn't like change. He doesn't like more work. He's comfortable where he's at. Yeah. And when I come directly to them and say, look, we can work with you as a millwork solution. We can do prototypes for you. You can deal directly with us instead of through multiple channels. And it means doing something different, and he might just try and push you away right there and then because that represents more work. So again, get the decision makers at the table.
Yeah. I feel like I have to add this for people that are listening, but when you're not dealing with a decision maker, the only decision the other person can make is no.
So true.
It's all the only ability they have is to say no, and it's comfortable. It costs them nothing to say no.
Totally.
It costs them nothing to say you're high bid. How many of us go scurrying back to our table and take time away from getting our kids to, I'll use soccer, soccer practice. Oh my God, I'm high on that job. We really need it. They said I'm high. Some guy that doesn't even know your trade just casually said to you in a conversation, yeah, you're pretty good, but you're high on that job.
Yep. But no discussion about apples to apples and why are you high? Can we sit down and look at this? And all I asked for is that opportunity to discuss why we can bring more value to the job. And yes, hey, our price might be higher, but here are the reasons that ultimately it's going to save the project money. Right. And it's going to ensure success. It's going to ensure back to schedule.
Done on time. Yeah.
We're in a deadline-driven industry. It is stressful. Any deadline industry is stressful. It's stressful on our staff. It's stressful in the industry. You get GCs that are cranky. You get site supers. Deadlines make cranky people. And so how can we get ahead of that? Which is back to the title is early communication. Let's problem solve upstream. Let's be creative in how we do this. And it starts with know thy client. understand where was their challenges. Tell me what it is. And also understanding what the responsibility on them is. And I want to give you an example is
Yeah.
an owner hires a GC and there's a handover date. And it is set in stone. Say it's October 1st.
Right.
And then I like to think of the GC goes out there and gathers together their 11 children. And they say, okay, kids, listen, we're going out the door at 8 a.m. and we're getting on the bus and we're going to go make that handover date. You know, is everyone organized? And if anyone's ever had 11 children, like I feel.
I was gonna say, did you pee yet? Did you change? You can't win that. Yeah.
Right? You're eating your peanut butter toast right now, but you know, GCs, that's a lot of babysitting. It's a lot of hand holding. It's a lot of coddling. It's a lot of stress. And the interesting thing is of those 11 children, we are one of the rare trades that we actually have the option to manufacture off-site. So when you think about it, the framers manufacture
on-site.
The windows, the floors, the drywall, you name it, they're all on site. We can get a vast majority of our product, all of it is done off-site. You know, some of it's on-site, but if we have early communication and clear expectations, we can actually have our bags packed and our lunch packed the night before.
Right, so pre-build in store. We can pre-build in store. We can stage it by elevation, and those things would make GCs love to have when a contractor has their equipment on site because they feel like they've got a measure of control.
Totally.
Right. And so when we say, look, we're going to have this thing built, we're going to have all the settees built or all, there's always pieces, components you can build. They do love that. You just have to have that conversation. So let me go back to the conversation. When you just find, let's say that I'm a new GC, Acme General Contractors. First, how do you vet me? And then when you first see the agreement, what do you look at the agreement or do you look at the job as your inflection point for coming back to me and starting to build that relationship?
Okay, let's start with vetting.
Yeah.
Trade references.
You're asking Acme for trade references?
No, well, I mean, I can, but more times than not, I like to ask for the references they don't tell you about. Whether it's staff or ask around. You'll hear from other trades if they've worked for someone, and if they pay their bills, right? They stick their schedule. And they're collaborative, or they, what's the other word? Authoritarian, abusive.
Right. So you'll walk away from a deal if you start to hear negative there.
Oh, without doubt. We just we had a GC drive by one of our sites down in Vancouver and call us up and said, "Hey, I've got a multi-residential that we're building. Will you quote it to us?" And right away, it's like we don't know this guy at all.
Right.
We did ask him for some trade references to give us a start. Nice. But we checked it out, found out that he does pay his bills. We, researched the company, understood the ownership chain. That's also important, right?
Right. Yep.
Because it can get pretty loose and easy out there about who can be a GC. And, there's some bad guys out there.
They make a living of vetting. Not paying a trade.
Totally. So he found us. But again, like I like to say to you, I have been in the last 2 years intentionally picking winners. Like they've never met us. They didn't know who we were. I knocked on the door.
Oh, this is net new business that you've added to the fold
without
after you bought the company.
Totally. So two things here. This fella found us. We vetted him by checking his trade references. That's reactive. But proactive is I went out in the world, researched, and this is from my background of finding national companies that we want to build for. Let me give you an example. It mattered to me was I going to go look to build the store fixtures for a company that rented DVDs? Right?
Well, not today.
Right? And just like paying attention to that company. Are they successful? Are they innovative? Are they forward thinking? Are they, you know, are they a winner? Right. So anyways, so the reactive is, you know, the guy that finds us. We check their trade references. The proactive is, I went and found the companies that I've looked around at who are really up and coming developers, builders, even our local community. Who are the people we want to partner with? Let's look at our geographical range. Who are the shakers and the movers, and what kind of company are they? Are they a relationship-based company? Or are they a low bid kind of company? And as soon as I figure out they're a low bid kind of company, I just turn away.
Just pass them over.
Yeah, because
so you're proactive. What I'm hearing here is you're proactive about things. You're not just letting the world come at you. And a lot of people do that. Well, they'll say with pride, we're really based on word of mouth and referrals. And they say it with pride. And in my mind, I'm like, uh-oh. Because there's no levers.
It's not a bad thing if
but there's no levers to pull. There's no levers. Like word of mouth and referral is fine when you've got an established base. And even that you need to be top grading and finding new, because some is always leaving. But you can't rely on word of mouth, and you can't rely on referrals. And you also can't wake up tomorrow and say, I want 3 more referrals. It's not going to happen. But I can go out there and specifically target the right kind of companies. And I just do the math backwards. I need to knock on 10 doors and I'll get 3 new clients. So 10 doors, here we come.
Yeah. And I love your analogy about the levers to push. Who wants to be on an ocean with no oars?
It's a good
right?
Yeah.
And the oars are the levers to push, right? Word of mouth is that you're relying on those trade winds to push you where you want to go.
Good visuals, Jenny.
Thank you. I'm a visual person.
This is very good. Yeah, that's very good. I think in this industry, there's a lot of us visual engineering stuff and working with our hands.
Yeah.
So let's get into this contract thing a bit. You find the right customer, you find the right potential customer, and then the agreement appears.
Right.
So where are you coming back to find opportunities in that agreement to make things work, or to make it so that you don't get caught? Like the whole pay when paid thing, or some clause that it really is just there to bite you in the butt and cover theirs.
Educate ourselves, know thy client. Something I did recently was attended a CCDC seminar to really understand what we're getting into. And I highly recommend take the mystique out of CCDC? The legal. Canadian contract, give me the DC part. Canadian construction, the contract. So essentially, I'm going to give you my layman's grade 5 analogy of what that is. And, it's bringing together 5 stakeholders in the construction industry. And if I'm going to nail them, I think it's the architects, the owners, the general contractors, the spec writers, and the engineers. They all get together and they all bring their stakes or what they want from a construction agreement to the table, and they hash it out. And they basically created the CCDC2 contract, which is a fair representation of each of those stakeholders that they say, okay, I can live with this. And that's put out in the world as a template. And that's the word I want to drive home.
Not a boilerplate, a template.
So many companies, millwork shops especially, think it is the word of God.
Cast in stone, sent down from the heavens. You can't change it.
Totally.
So do you believe in redlining? Do you have it as a conversation? What do you do?
Absolutely. It's a conversation to start with, without doubt. I mean, you want to be collaborative here. You don't want to be dismissive or argumentative. But so another kind of little tidbit that I came away with is it is available to any subtrade to ask for the prime contract. So when the GC and the owner get together and say, hey, I want you to build this for me. Okay, cool. Let's make a contract. Subtrades are, they can ask for that prime contract because there is many clauses in the contract between the GC and the subtrade that you are beholden to that are tied to the prime contract. And you need to know that. before you go in. And so that's become a pretty standard process for us, is to ask for the prime contract.
Can I put my hand up? Do you see that? People who are listening to this as an audio didn't see that. How much time do you allocate? Do you go to your, actually, I'll ask you, who in your company do you allocate X block of hours to review the prime and the work order, if you call it that?
So you're, again, education, which again, I want to circle back to energy. That was what attracted us to that software. They provide just wicked education, but one of our financial team staff, we sent her to a construction legal course, which again, just be intentional, plan upstream. If we're going to have someone look at these prime contracts, we have to educate them. We have to make sure that they're speaking the right language. And so Andrea went and attended the course, so that we know that we have someone intelligent that can, you know, basically appraise us and find any kind of flags that we should be wary of.
Okay, so her job is to look at these things for flags. And do you allocate time when you're doing your estimating on a job? You're like, we know we're going to spend 5 hours or 50 hours reviewing.
I wouldn't say
because you have to invest, right?
I wouldn't say we consciously allocate time. Like, that's the cost of doing business, is reviewing the contract. But yeah, I think your question is having someone on your team that, you know, if you've got keeners that are willing to go out there and learn, give them the tools.
Yeah.
Send them to these courses. When you get that prime contract, have a look over it, make sure there's nothing that will trip you up down the road. Before you sign the sub-trade contract, have a discussion, be very open about the expectations, ask what theirs are. There's lots of common tripwires, which is, when are you gonna have the shop drawings to us? When are we gonna have the approvals for samples? When do you want us on site? What happens if that site slides?
Right.
You know, talking about those hiccups that happen on projects. In the event of this hiccup,
what's the impact on me? If the drywallers aren't
and what
finished
is a
on time,
reasonable
why do
response?
I have to take the
Totally. And
Yeah.
what is a reasonable response? Like, in the event that this slides 4 weeks, are you comfortable if we start building regardless? Because, you know, similar to say a massage person, we've allocated this time for you to be in that chair. And if you miss it, we can't send our staff home. Like, we still need to be working. And so what we're gonna, you know, suggest to you is, we're gonna go ahead and build your project. How do you feel about paying for us, or paying us to build it? And again, back to that analogy about the 11 kids getting in the van. If you've got little Billy, who always gets a bad rap, and I'm gonna make him the star child. He's got his lunch packed, he's got his backpack ready, and he's sitting out by the van ready to go. When you look at him, how do you feel? You're late. You're
as a parent?
The other sub-trades are, you know, disastrous. You're trying to get everyone in the car because you have to be at that deadline, and you've got little Billy there ready to go ahead of time. My goodness, would you pay him?
I'm calling Billy for the next trip we're doing. I think I'm going to give Billy one of the other kids to take care of.
Absolutely. He takes the stress out of the morning. He actually sets an example. Here's another thing that I've learned. He who is most organized runs the job. I know that sounds really wild, and
isn't that true?
Isn't it?
Isn't that true?
And I know
that egotistical plumber that shows up and thinks they run the show, and you just realize they're running at random land.
Yep.
Suddenly they start to fall into line pretty quick.
Totally. And so what do you think the other kids are doing when they see Billy's got his backpack again ready to go? He's got his lunch done the night before. He's got everything. Like, it ups the game of the whole project. It takes the stress out for the GC. Their handover date is going to happen. And, you know, when you've got these unruly kids, and you've got schedule slide, you've got hiccups, you've got a water leak, you've got, you know that the 1,000,001 different
everything, site access issues, and things we will never randomly think about because they just,
And inevitably, projects will slide. And if you're 11th child who has to get into the vehicle, that often takes the longest, and they're the crux. Is that what you call them? Crux? Crutch?
You could,
Crutch.
the weakest link. It's the weakest link. The
Oh,
project will only go as fast as the weakest link.
and you know, often it's the millwork companies that get screamed at because unfortunately their window, that handover date for the GC didn't change. Those other 10 kids ate up the window of the millwork to install on site, but the millwork still has to do backflips and show up.
And we have to make sure that that's reflected in the agreement, in the contract.
Totally.
Because if I'm tied to a date, but if my date gets pushed because, let's say, the drywall or the electrician plumber doesn't do their thing,
Totally.
how do you go about talking about that in the contract? It says, well, I can't sign this because if the electrician's late, I take the blame. How do you do that?
So 4 weeks, we need 4 weeks. Say it's a 5-floor. Right away, we state what our window is going to be. And we make sure that is included in the contract, that this is our guaranteed window. It's always under promise, over deliver, right?
You know what's interesting, and this is the third time you've done this. Did you know that?
What did I do?
It's good, and I hope people have picked it up. You've 3 different times you've mentioned that we sell time, not production. We're not selling you cabinets. I can make cabinets all day long. I can do millwork all day long. I've done airports, I've done libraries, I've done courthouses. Our ability to build is not in question. You're buying time on my calendar. You didn't say that, but that's what I picked up.
Yeah, no, you're entirely right.
Yeah.
Entirely right. And you know what, for our ecology, in our organization, in our culture, and our health, when we don't communicate well and set expectations with clients, it is our staff on the production floor, especially, who suffers. And so it is our diligence and our responsibility as estimators and project managers to get our jobs done well, communicate clearly, set expectations, and hold space for our production team to succeed in a positive, engaging manner, not a high stress, angry, you know, it's avoidable.
On fire.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that.
I've had enough fires. I never want to see one again. Never.
Yeah.
They are a painful lesson for every organization. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. And you just think, how can I avoid this? And there's ways, and it's about being early, upstream, communicate, get the expectations out there.
That's a really good point that you brought up, because I was going to take this to a sort of our ending question. When you see a fire starting to burn in the company, and it could be anywhere, it could be on the production side, could be on the install side, could be on the shop floor, could be in production. It doesn't matter, but you start to see something, there's a bottleneck forming. How long does it take you? Ideally, you know, like, the world's not perfect, but how long does it take you to go and deal with that? And what's the best answer?
Rapid. You know, again, we were just talking about this internally. There was a school that we're building that there's a real disconnect between the locks. So the school district, who technically is an owner, and anyone out here who builds schools will say, I know exactly what you're talking about. You will have, you know, the architect draw the locks for 13 classrooms, or maybe it's an addition. Maybe it's in this instance, it was 6 classrooms in addition to the school that's existing. And they specify a lock. Well, right at the last 11th hour, you know, the school district is saying, hold on a minute, we want that lock to match the locks that we have in the existing school. But here's us, is we can't program our machinery on what to drill until we know exactly the specifications of what lock.
Right.
So we have to know exactly what that lock is. And they're back and forth. And, you know, you got to call a timeout, get the school district, get the architect, get them all in a room and just say, we need to straighten this out right now. Our poor project manager was just beating himself up, like not getting answers because the architect's saying this one, the school district saying this one, the GC really doesn't care because they're
No.
building it and they're out of there. It's
Yeah.
the janitor that's got to live with it. It's the principal who
Yeah.
needs to get into the locks in the new edition and they're not going to pay attention. So honestly, as an organization, I talked to our PM, we need to pay attention to the school district right now.
Mm.
Who cares what the architect in the ivory tower has said? They're not living with it. Like, let's really think about this again, walking in someone else's shoes. Who is the end user? What is this going to feel like? How can we build this
That's a
project?
really interesting perspective, because perspective is the right word. You have to step back enough to go, we're talking about locks.
Yeah,
The use of the lock is this, the impact of the lock is that. This is holding up our job. We can't mill it on the CNC, which means we can't edge band it. We can't assemble it. We can't finish it, whatever order you're doing it. Like, you can't do any of it because you haven't told us the locks. So do you go to everybody and say, we have to solve this because you're about to extend the timeline of the project?
you know what? Our contractual obligation was to do what the architect specified. We could have just
Oh, right.
walked away right there and just went, by the contract, we are putting in this lock that doesn't match the rest of the school. And we've covered our butts. But think about it for a second, if we had done that. Yes, we would have been right in the eyes of the law. We would have been right on that job. We could have, but let's say that janitor now is doing his job. He can't get that in. Next thing they start hollering at the school, then the school starts hollering at the GC and the GC starts hollering at us. Now, all those doors have been drilled. A mismatched lock has been put in there. There's, first going to be the Aaron Brockovich of the GC saying, no, we did what we were supposed to do. Sorry, denied. And, back and forth there's stress. Then the GC getting on us as a millwork going, and we just say, sorry, we did what was specified. Or we could make the GC look better. We can help the owner, which is ultimately that janitor, right?
Yeah.
And it's just being conscientious, again, intentional, thinking things through, reverse engineering from the perspective of the GC, from the developer, from the end user, and just really think about these things and plan upstream. So what are we going to do at that next school? I've talked to the staff about it right now.
You're going to make sure early and upfront, as you said earlier, that
Well, and we know, so this is what I heard in our project management meeting. Do you know this happens every school?
oh, really?
Yep. And not just that, the schools own a lot of daycares. So it came to my notice that in the last 2 years, we've had this problem at least 4 or 5 different projects.
Oh, so now you know about it in advance. You can
Right.
build a relationship based on it, but you can also avoid it.
Yep. So
Yeah.
talk about value to a project
Mm.
right there. Next school that we go to build, I'm going to bring that up early with the GC. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that poor Jen? You can
Well, not
be
just the poor janitor, because the
superhero.
janitor is going to roll that back up to the school district and they're going to start doing the yelling. And then
Yep,
Mr. GC, they're going to look at you in a negative light.
totally, right? And so, hey,
Yeah.
Mr. GC, I'm going to bring this to your attention early and right now and make you look like a superstar because you're going to go in there and seem very conscientious, very forward thinking, and very
Take all the credit. You've
totally
forgotten this
right.
minor detail.
But if
Yeah.
I can make the GC look good, I'm Billy sitting by that van with my backpack and my lunch, and not just
Ready to
that.
go.
I laid out the toothbrushes and put toothpaste on each of my siblings, like
They all
what
hate you.
can I do to foster a collaborative relationship on that project? And I mean, that's the big thing too, is be generous. Be generous, like help out. If there is a molding that's not in your scope, if there is, you know, if you're generous and collaborative, I believe in karma. It comes back. It will come back. Don't look for a price tag associated with everything that you put onto that project. give freely. And if you have picked the right clients, you're going to get that 10 times back.
Yeah.
You're going to have future revenue secured.
Well, because they want the easy, like you talked about the easy button before, but everybody does want the easy button.
Yeah.
And so I want somebody defending the bid that they chose, because they're having a boardroom meeting as well. And they're saying, why'd you choose this millwork package? It came in at, I'll just use a number, $100,000, right? But we got two other bids, one at 85 and one at 90. Why'd you choose the 100,000? And you want that PM or purchaser, whoever's the decision maker, to say, oh, I would take that all day long. These guys deliver on time. They organize the other trades. They make us look good. They watch for problems. They get stuff done. They're just professional. And then somebody else in the other end of the boardroom table goes, okay, done. Now let's move on. What do we have for carpet bids? You know,
and again, when you think about it as an owner, like, what is your number one objective? It's to
build the building.
Yeah, build a building on time, on budget. You know, that is important. But you want the easy button.
Oh, right.
You don't want to have drama with trades. You don't want a GC that is constantly agitated. And, you know, again, let's talk about that minivan in the parking lot or in the driveway.
Yeah.
You want smooth collaboration. You want people that work together well. You don't want bickering. It costs money. Bickering costs money. You want people that come together because they're professional and they're going to do what needs to be done to get this project across the line, not because you know what, when people work together, it makes more profit.
Yeah. There's a lot of intentionality in what you presented today. So I appreciate that. I think that's my big takeaway, is be intentional. Get in front of it. If you see a fire smoldering, go deal with it right away. You know, Rick Patak calls it dragon's eggs. Go deal with the dragons at the egg stage before it turns into a big problem.
Without doubt, like fires are just insanely costly. Yeah. And as soon as you see something smoldering, get on it, get early. I mean, hello, we're in forest fire capital of the world, I swear.
Oh, are you ever? Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of countries that are also hard hit, but we all know what's happened when we haven't hit smoldering fires fast and hard.
Yeah. And it turns into a big.
Absolutely. And you know, there's definitely a metaphor for the construction industry on that. When you see something smoldering, but I mean, even better, how can you get ahead of it? How can we manage our forests? Like, I'm going to go down another.
Oh, you have all these analogies. It's right? Good. It's good.
Yeah, but it's important. It's for the clients, for the vendors, it's for our staff. The other thing too is I share a lot of information with our vendors, the ones that are winners, if that makes sense. There's some of them that I try and spark the conversation about.
Oh, and you just know when it falls flat.
Yeah, totally. And man, I tell you, the smart ones, I just look at them with such pride and celebration because they're exceptional.
I'm gonna make this more generic. We'll start to wind down the show, but you know, when I go to the trade shows, I go talk to the vendors, right? And so I'll say the accessories vendors.
Yeah.
There's 3 big vendors in a certain line of accessories, and I go talk to one booth. Hey, oh Dom, nice to hear you. You know, we've heard the podcast, we've heard about it. Oh, it's great. You know, we have no business to do together, but they're nice, right? You go to the next booth and they're moderate, and then you go to the next booth and they just look at you and like, you buying anything?
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, no, actually, I'm not. But the other thing that's going to happen is none of you are ever going to be a guest on the show either. So thanks.
Yeah.
You just shortened the list. You just made it so easy, so incredibly easy.
Yeah, and you know, it's so funny, like rewind the tape decades ago when I was this little girl, McKillican rep, you know, nervously going into these big shops. And I'm curious by nature. And right away, any shop, I'd want to understand what kind of business segment they focus in. I would ask them, you know, what's their goals? Where do they want to be in a year or 2 years, 5 years? What's their end game? And man, I tell you, there were so few business owners that had answers. I just quickly realized that I was embarrassing them and or making them uncomfortable. So I quickly learned how to
Ask different questions to get that answer.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
yes and no. There's some of them I just walked out thinking, man, they're gonna be unsuccessful, or
Yeah.
that's
You get 30 days credit. That's all you
Yes,
get.
right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I have to say, Jack Mendez at Top 40 Woodworks, like he was one of the winners. Like
Do you mean he had a strategic plan
he
and he was
totally did.
proactive about building the business?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And
I'm
that
pandering to myself now, but I mean, that's what business coaches do is we try to put certainty in where there's cloudiness, where there's
totally
fuzziness.
ask the right questions. Ask the right
Yeah.
questions and it enables them to start eking out the answers. And yeah, Jack and I were really close friends for forever before I came to work here. And his approach to business is what built the company from really it was three of them. And I remember that. And when we bought the company, there was just over 60 employees. And now we're just over 80 in 2 years. So
Fantastic.
it's we owe a lot to Jack and his vision. And it's cool. It's really cool. I'm excited about the future of this company because what Byron and I have done is we've really introduced the tech side of things and software. And when you talk about levers, we're really leveraging what is out there in terms of technology, software. There, by the way, I don't know if the program's still running in Canada, but it was Canadian
CDAP,
Digital Adoption
digital adoption
Program.
program. Right.
I heard it on the radio one day and I came in and went, hey, let's check this out. And the government basically was throwing money at companies that they wanted to,
Implement
digital
a
adoption.
software or something.
So what we used the money, so they gave us $15,000 and we hired an IT company to assess. I shouldn't say an IT company. They really do. They're more of an assessment company and they came in and looked at all our systems, interviewed some of the staff, looked at exactly what we're doing, and then they went away and came back with a roadmap of this is where you're at. Here's your weaknesses. Here's the strengths.
Yep.
And if where do you want to be? We had an in-depth interview about that. And then that bridge from here to there, let's create a roadmap for you. So they gave us about 14 initiatives that we needed to work on. And we hired our own internal IT person, which is quite a celebration because I think every millwork shop out there, there's always those big questions about when are we big enough to get an HR person?
When are we big enough to get this? Or when are we big
And
enough
when
to
are we
get
big enough to get an IT person? And I tell you, having an IT person is like having heated seats in my car. Like I can't live without
Can't
it.
live without it now. Yeah.
Right? But yeah, so he's been slowly in the background. He's got his reactive, but on his proactive time, he's working through all those initiatives, and it's been phenomenal. Energy software for running a millwork company is invaluable. Big shout out
It
to
gives you the data.
oh man, data is everything.
Yeah.
It would be like driving in the dark with no headlights down a windy forested road.
Oh yeah.
So this is what we've brought to the organization. Jack had so much vision and they did phenomenal work until he exited. And then what we've done is brought in that tech and the software and leveraging the data and making decisions based on that. Communication's a big one, of course, bringing all these staff in.
Sure.
Because oh my gosh, there's something we do. I was joking yesterday that we have a meeting early in the project again, early.
On a per project basis. Okay.
Yes. So we get this meeting after we've had our first shop drawings done. This is before we've given them to the client. Here's a nugget for all of you. You're welcome. So we get the project, we do shop drawings quick.
Yeah.
And then we get all the Yodas in our company. Yoda, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we've just got such a wealth of experience. So our site manager, engineering manager, project manager, we have our purchaser, and we have our production manager.
Right.
they basically go through that whole set of drawings.
With a
And they,
scowl on their face and they
well,
look for
and they'll look
problems.
at that and basically it's a strategy meeting.
Yeah.
Or and so again, it's kind of like, I think the idea came from the CCDC. You know, there's 5 of them right there fighting out for their stake in this project.
To
And
make sure
you
this thing's
know,
done
sure
right.
as hell, the site manager is gonna be calling out any kind of attachment issues or site access issues. You know that production, he's gonna be screaming right now if we're putting together those lazy Susan cabinets in a really wonky way.
Mhm.
The PM, of course, he's listening. Engineering is saying, hey, that's not gonna work in terms of machining. Like, we
Yeah.
need to do this different. And purchasing, my gosh, they're at the table to say, hey, have we thought about using this material, a plywood core instead of melamine?
Yeah. All right. Did you guys notice the acoustical panels that have to come from Germany and can only come by
Totally,
barge?
yeah, long
Yeah.
lead time. And
Right.
right
Huge
then,
lead times,
hey,
weird
yeah,
product.
and again, right there, there's value we can bring to the project. When we right there go, are you kidding me? That is from Italy and it's $120 for that handle. I think we can come up with an alternate right now. And it's
Yeah.
so early, back to cranky, because we're a deadline driven
Yeah.
industry. When you start asking for alternates in the 11th hour,
Oh, no es
cranky,
bueno. No,
yeah,
no, no. That's not
yeah,
good.
go away,
Nobody
go
wants a
away, go
surprise.
away.
Nobody wants a
Yeah.
surprise. That would
And
be the worst
oh,
time.
really? You didn't order the 12-week $120 handle? Too bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
suck it up,
Order
Buttercup.
it now and courier it. And oh, they don't make it anymore? Too bad.
Right. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna pay that $3,000 error. And so but guess what? If you come to that architect 8 months ahead of that project and say, hey, you know that 120, oh, it's $120. Yeah, we have a $20 alternate. What do you think? You'll look like a superstar, Mr. Architect. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, just, let me take that to the owner.
Let me take credit for that.
Let me take credit for that. And you know what? We
Do
don't
it.
care. We just want the next job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So again, be intentional, get upstream,
Excellent.
communicate, open, honest, and it's deadline driven. Everyone gets cranky when it's the 11th hour.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, I have a list of other topics that you're going to be asked to be a guest for now. That's you've created your own you've created your own problem. That's a good thing. No, you've got so many
First
different
world
angles
problem,
that we could
right?
talk about. Yeah, no, so many different things. I do appreciate the intentionality that you bring to the business. And you brought up something that I firmly believe in, which is having a plan. Have a
Totally.
plan at the go get clients level. Have a plan at how we're going to start a job level. Have a plan at how you're going to run this business. Have a plan at how you're going to grow this business. By the way, in 2 years, you've added 15 people to the company.
Uh,
Uh,
20,
sorry,
20.
20.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
trying to do the math this morning. I think that's 40%.
Yeah,
So
that's a
60
lot of
would be
people.
10%. I think that's 40%. The staff increased and
That's another company right there.
so
So
if
there's
we, yeah, really, hey,
it's
yeah,
sometimes
so
as an owner, you
yeah,
forget about those successes. You're like, well, we need those people. We're growing here. We're going to do that. But you've just employed 20 more people, 15 or 20 more people in your market and outside of your market.
true.
It's yeah,
Remote.
but it
Yeah,
all comes down to being proactive in the business and getting out of this world where we're reactive and feeling like, my gosh, I'm taking so many lefts. Somebody please just give me a right and put me to sleep. Like you want
without
to get
doubt.
ahead of it and be I'll say it, a business person who just happens to run a wood shop.
Yeah, for sure. And I love your term about levers, right? Levers disappear when you're not upstream and intentional and early. There is no levers.
Yeah. No, you're forced to make a bad decision.
Yeah, you've got no oars. You're in that boat. You're hoping the wind's gonna come.
How
And
does
yeah.
yeah. I'm wondering if somebody wants to find you in this big wide world, how
Oh,
do they
right.
find you? How do we find top 40?
40 is spelt with numbers. So it's TOP40. Woodworks with an S.
Yeah.
And we're on Instagram, Facebook, we've got a website. You can reach out to us through any of those avenues.
And then you're an active student and sometimes you're on stage at the energy conferences.
I did have that honor. That was a real privilege. It was, again, that organization, anyone's thinking about software, it's a big undertaking to implement anything, and you have to do it with a full heart. You can't half-ass it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
have
yeah.
4 woodworking clients right now
Yep.
that we've taken from, it's almost like pre-energy, you can call it that, like not ready for energy. And now
Yep.
4 of them right now that we work with are in the energy implementation. And I'm
No,
not promoting
absolutely.
energy. I'm a business coach.
Yep. And
So
you know,
I'm agnostic. It doesn't matter to me. I just want the best results. But 4 right
totally.
now have moved into that echelon.
You know, what's really cool about Energy is they really support a spirit of collaboration with your competitors. They call it a nexus, right? Like, I don't think we should be shy about reaching out to each other and supporting each other, and just again being open and honest. Like there is
Yeah,
enough work in the world for all of us. And let's find like-minded companies to partner with, because we can give more to each other than we take from each other.
that's
Does
right.
that make sense? And
That's the servant leadership attitude right there.
it's very,
Yeah.
very much the spirit of Energy and Mark Sanderson, which is to bring these like-minded companies together and talk about how we can change the industry and improve it. And you know, their stewardship of the millwork industry is just been incredible.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Jenny, thank you. Thanks for your insights. I'm probably going to invite you back again. So be prepared for that. All right. And I do appreciate you being here. Have a great
Thank
day.
you very much.
Thanks.
It's yeah, I'm honored again. I've always enjoyed this podcast. Before we found Energy, I said to you, you were my pre-energy go-to. I really, and you know, it's a really valuable podcast that there's not enough places where we can come together and learn
And the business
and
side
share.
of, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you,
And
Jenny. I
really,
appreciate
you've
it.
done a great thing with this podcast, and it really opens the avenues for us to reach out to each other.
Yeah. I'm going to keep at it.
Yay.
All right. Thanks, Jenny. Have a
Thanks,
great day. We'll
Don.
talk to you soon. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, well, well. What did you learn from Jenny? That was fantastic, right? Really good insight. I like the way that she picks those things apart and looks for the root cause of the issue, understanding that having discussions, really intelligent discussions at the front of the process helps us with scheduling, helps us with cash flow, helps us with our team, helps us with everything. That's what we're trying to do here, right? Our job as business owners, it doesn't matter whether you're a cabinet maker or a mill worker or a dentist. Our job is to solve problems for people, and we get paid to solve those problems. The better we are at solving problems, the more we get paid. The better we are at managing what we get paid, the more profit we take home, the more time we have, right? There are simple systems to help you build this business. Find a way somehow to tap into those systems, right? Hey, I want to read you an email before we get to the learning piece, because the learning piece today is going to be on team, people, recruiting. If you've got frustration around any of that, I've got a little training piece for you on that. But first, I want to read you an email that we got from a coaching client. A big thank you from your favorite Leprechaun Report fans. Now, before I get into this, you guys will remember, some of you will remember, that the Leprechaun Report is kind of the joke that we make about the end of job report. And the reason I did that is my editor at Forbes magazine asked me to write an article, and he wanted me to do it on like job profitability. I was like, oh, snooze fest. Like nobody's going to read this thing. And it happened to be that was going to be coming out at St. Patrick's Day, or like the episode, not the episode, what do you call it in a magazine? Anyways, the magazine was going to come out close to St. Patrick's Day. And so I had remembered that years ago, one of my clients called the end of job report the Leprechaun Report, because we'd been joking about finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, finding all the money at the end of the job. You see where this is going. So we started calling it the Leprechaun Report. Anyways, I wrote about that in Forbes. My editor loved it. People still, sort of joke about it being called the Leprechaun Report. So a lot of our clients do as well. Anyways, here's the email from Simon and Dave. Their names are not Simon and Dave, as you know, but we're going to call them Simon and Dave. Remember when we were Hey, hope all is well. Had to shoot you this quick email. Remember when we were just two guys running a kitchen cabinet shop, trying to figure things out and constantly banging our heads against the wall? It took me and Simon, again, that's not his name. I changed his name for confidentiality. It took me and Simon 3 years and 16-hour days to hit that 500 grand mark in sales. And even then, we weren't seeing any real profit. Those were rough times. Sometimes on the show, you joke about not making any money and eating mac and cheese, and that used to hit too close to home. So obviously they listen to the podcast as well, and that's how we met. The first time we did one of your free webinars, Simon and I took pages and pages of notes. I don't think we've ever looked back. So we do master classes. There's another one coming up called Time, Team, and Money Masterclass. It's just for contractors. That's the first time I met Simon and his partner, Dave. Again, not their names, but that's the first time we met when they, obviously listened to the show like you do. And then they signed up for one of the master classes and then said, the first time we did one of your free webinars, Simon and I took pages and pages of notes. He goes on to say, it was like flipping a switch. Fast forward to now, we've just wrapped up our biggest year ever. We are on track to finish just under $1 million. So these guys are now working with us as coaching clients. No surprise. And these are the kind of results they get. So this is some of the key points. Biggest single job ever. Biggest profit on a single job ever. We landed our largest single sale. That's a mouthful. We landed our largest single sale and strung together a series of jobs with 43 to 48% GP, gross profit. It looks like we'll hit 13% gross profit for the year. Before, all we ever talked about was the size of a job. We had no clue about profit margins. I think we're starting to get it. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. So that's really good because they're quoting something that we talk about in coaching all the time. Revenue is the big lie, folks. Profit is what it's really about. I would rather you ran, let's use their number. I'd rather that you had a $500,000 business where you pulled 400 grand in profits, then ran a $5 million business and you made 2% in profits. And you might think, well, Don, that's ridiculous. Who would run a $5 million business and barely be making any money? And yet we see that all, those are exactly the kind of people that contact us and say, hey, we got to turn this around. Like we know how to build cabinets. We know how to do millwork, but we're missing something on the operational side. And we're not getting the profits that we deserve. That is the basic question that we answer. Right. Anyways, back to their email. Where was I? I think we're starting to get it. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. I was talking about the Leprechaun Report the other day, and my wife looked at me like I was crazy. I forgot that we started calling it that. She had no clue what I meant. You guys don't know Simon, but he's actually kind of a jokester too. Profits is just like finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. On a personal note, our wives are over the moon with the changes they've seen in us and our business. Cheryl, not her name. Okay. So Cheryl was chatting about it with other wives at the church picnic last weekend. And then I had to explain what the heck a Leprechaun Report was. Seriously, I figured you get a laugh out of that. Thank you for everything. All the best, David and Simon. So good guys, right? Good guys running a business, just trying to make it work. Just beating themselves up to get to 500 grand. And now they are just under, they're going to end this year in just a little north of 900,000. And that, they're already booked at the time that I'm recording this. So they're probably already booking jobs into early January. So they've got 6 or 7 months of work already lined up ahead of them. It's pretty nice, right? So they've got work waiting. So they know their guys are going to be employed through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, which means that they're able to help those other families in their community, probably some of the people at church picnic, put gifts under the tree at Christmas time. And they're thinking about it now. They're helping those other families by, those families are taking wages home so they can enjoy Thanksgiving as a family. Like we're building the community by building our business. Don't forget, that's the impact that you have. Anyways, the other thing I want to do real quick is I want to thank all the members of Contractor Strategy Group, which is our free Facebook group. The reason I want to thank, there's like 5 or 6 of you. I needed an audit done on a new professional development tool that we're working on here. It's called the 8 Leadership and Communication Styles of Effective Project Managers and When to Use Them. That's a mouthful, but we do like to give our professional development tools really long titles. the 8 leadership and communication styles of effective project managers and when to use them. Anyways, 5 or 6 companies who, were big enough to have their own project managers volunteered. So what I did is I sent out an early version of the professional development tool to them. And I asked them to look at the workbook section, because the workbook section has a bunch of questions in it that, the intent of this particular tool is that you as an owner can use it to onboard new project managers, but also to train your new project managers. There would be easily 9 different training sessions there. So if you spread that out over, let's say you did 1 training session a week, you've got 9 weeks of agenda right there to talk to your project manager about their communication and leadership style in the field and in the shop. So how cool is that? And I have to thank all of you, because that particular tool was created out of feedback that we've received from coaching clients, from people in the Construction Millionaire Bootcamp, from emails that we receive, etc. There seems to be a real hinky in the cabinetry business, where the first bottleneck that we hear quite often is engineering. Getting stuff out of engineering and onto the floor, like to the CNC, to the router, whatever you call it in your shop. That's one of the spots. But the other one is on the production side, and it's when the project manager takes over, which is why, we've got the Rodina scale, which came from the episode with Mark Sanderson from Energy, where I, on one page, laid out all of the different factors and the people that are impact scheduling issues. But this project manager one is important, because if we're not onboarding a project manager properly, you, and I'm pointing at you, the business owner, can never leave the business. You can't go golfing. You can't play pickleball. I don't know if you like pickleball. I don't, but let's say you like pickleball, or you like going to the gym, you want to go fishing, golfing, just want to come home early and play with your kids, your grandkids, or mow the lawn, whatever you want to do. But you can't do it. You can't do it because you're tied to the business, because your project manager can't run things while you're not there. And so it's a limiting factor on your growth. So that's why the tool was created. Anyways, a big thank you to all the Contractor Strategy Group members. If you're not a member of Contractor Strategy Group, by the way, you should probably join. It's free to join, and it's the last valuable corner of Facebook. Sorry, Facebook. Well, I'm not going to apologize to you. It's only for business owners. We only talk about business owner things. The particular topic right now that everybody's chatting about is the new professional development tool that we're about to put out. And I'm waiting for comments back from you guys on that. So thank you. So the training, we're going to simplify and solve a common business problem right now. And the common business problem that we've got is team, is people. So we just talked about that there, right? One of the people challenges that we have as cabinet makers and architectural millwork, in the finished wood trades, is we just can't do it all on our own. Now, you are probably the best technician, like you're the most technically skilled person in the company. You have the greatest ability to develop relationships. You can look at contracts. You're pretty good with cash flow. You're good at everything in the business. So why isn't everybody else as good as you? And that becomes really frustrating, right? I just had a coaching meeting earlier this week with a very large kitchen cabinet company. So not millwork, but kitchen cabinets. And he's got a number 2 in charge who's really strong, like 85% of capability, right? 85% of the business owner. So that, like, if the business owner is at 100%, this number 2 in charge, this operational guy, is about 85% of the capacity of the business owner, which I think is a massive win. But it's a matter of perspective. Are you ever going to get somebody that's 100% of you? Probably not. But if you could build everybody to 80, 85, 90%, oh my God, the world would look so different. We're always still going to need to manage our people. That's why even the biggest companies have board of directors. The business owner, or the CEO or president, reports to the board of directors on quarterly results, strategic initiatives, and things like that. I'm on the board of directors of other companies that aren't even in cabinetry. Some of you guys already know this because you know me through coaching. One of the companies that I'm on the board of directors for is a cybersecurity company. And you're like, what the heck? Rubino's the contractor guy. How the heck did they invite him to be on the board of directors of a cybersecurity company? Because they did, because I'm in the business of business, because they also understand they have the same challenges that we have: time, team, money, growth, exit strategy, marketing, sales. It's the business of business, folks. So when we talk about team challenges that you have as a cabinet maker, team challenges you have doing closets, team challenges you have doing garage floors, team challenges you have building cabinets. It's the same team challenges that every company has. There are some key elements that we need to go back and work on. Anyways, I have a training coming up on this, and it's called the Time, Team, and Money Masterclass, right? If you want to be in it, just shoot me a text and say waitlist. The cell phone number is 315-903-7853. Just say waitlist. Text me, and then we'll put you on the waitlist for that. But when it comes to team, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a quick strategy. It's called the 1-3-1 method. It's really easy, right? It's really easy, but it takes a little bit of patience on your side. Now, I'm assuming you've already hired the right people. You got to give me a yes or no on that. Did you hire the right people? Yes or no? Okay. Did you onboard the people properly? Yes or no? Do you have an onboarding system? If not, shoot me a message and ask for the onboarding SOP. Do you have an onboarding system? Did you take them through the onboarding system, right? So far, two big things. Did you hire the right people? Do you have an onboarding system? Do you consistently communicate with your team about what your expectations are? Let's assume all those things are yeses, but you're still having a challenge with somebody on the team. Here's the 1-3-1 method. So somebody comes up to you and their name is Jenny. Jenny is your new designer. And Jenny comes up to you with a problem that she comes up with different flavors of quite often. So Jenny comes up to you and says, hey, I got this challenge. The very first thing I want you to do is the number one in the 1-3-1 methodology. And the number one is to clearly define the problem that Jenny's trying to solve. Because a problem well defined is a problem half solved. As soon as you really clearly define it, you've half solved it. So Jenny comes up to you and says, hey, we got a problem with the samples, getting the samples back from the client. They're dragging their heels. And now you're mad at me because I can't get it into production, but the client's not returning the calls. So what do I do? And then she starts talking about maybe some of the things that are going on with clients and things that are going on the floor, and people are getting frustrated with her. So you say, well, hang on a sec, Jenny. Let's really clearly define what we're trying to do here. This is the one. If I understand you correctly, the basic problem is we're not getting samples back from the customer. Is that right? And now you listen. You just shut up and listen. And Jenny says, yeah, that is the basic problem. Okay, great. Give me a couple of options here. Let's say I want you to right now come up with 3 options that we've got for solving that problem. Now, you got to be quiet here. Don't start answering. This is the time to zip your lip. Shut la bocca. Chiuda la bocca. That's Italian, right? Shut up. Listen. I'm swearing. I'm saying shut up. Okay, be quiet. But let Jenny come up with the answers. So she's going to come up with some answers. She's going to go, I could call them again, but I've called them a million times. Okay, that's one answer. You could call them again. I could send them an email. I could do that. Okay, good. So that's number 2. So you could call them. You could send them an email. What's a third thing that you could do? I could take the sample box and go to their house. Oh, okay. That's number 3. So there's 3 decent options right there. Are there any other options? And you really want to let her, I call it a steam valve. You just get all the options on the table. Some are going to be good. Some are going to be bad. Here's a bad one. I could just guess. I could just give them a standard color out of our standard color book and hope that they like it. Because, there's 15 different kinds of white. How are they going to know that we chose ivory white and not cloud white or goosebump white? Okay, that one's not such a good idea, right? So you wait there. So you've done the 1, now you've done the 3, now you go back to the next one. You say, okay, Jenny, of all those answers, we've got them all listed here. We just talked about them. Which one of those do you think is the best? And Jenny's like, don't answer for her. Take all the samples and go to their house? Yes, that one sounds like a good idea. When do you think you could do that? Now, what you've done is you've put the power back in Jenny's hands. It's her idea, her answer. Now, you might think, hey, Rubino, you didn't really tear the roof off the world there. You didn't change my day. How's that going to make my life better? Hang on a second. If one of your management tools is to continually go back to your people and get them to come up with all the options and choose the best answer, what you're doing is training them to come up with the options and choose the best answer. So over time, what happens at Jenny's desk is she's going to say, hey, I'm going to go talk to Dom because this client's not getting us our samples back. And then before she gets up, she goes, you know what? Every time I talk to him, he says, what are your 3 best options? Give me all the options. Choose the best option. And so she's going to start mimicking me and making fun of me, which is exactly what I want. And then you know what Jenny does? She takes the sample book and she goes to the client's house and she gets them to choose a color right now. That's what we want. So anyways, we talk about team. in that perspective. Look, if you like tips and tricks and inside tracks like that, you're just not going to invent them on your own. And you can't live long enough to learn through experience. And you certainly don't want to work long enough to learn everything by experience. Come and join us on the masterclass. It's called the Time, Team, and Money Masterclass. It's a professional development tool just for contractors to learn about time, team, and money. Join us. If you want to be on the wait list, that's the first step. You got to get on the wait list to get invited, and then it'll show up in your calendar. Take it from there. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. Just say waitlist. You know what? Put you on the wait list. Until then, thank you for checking in. Thank you, Jenny, for being a guest. And I'm looking forward to the day, folks, when you and I can have a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine across the table together and shake hands. That day, I'm really looking forward to. Have a great one. Bye-bye.